Well, hello, everybody. Happy winter solstice. Happy Yule. Merry Christmas. I hope everybody is starting off their holiday season very well with lots of cheer. Today, of course, on the order of Velvet Bite, this is our last show. I don't know. I might try a New Year's one. I might try to convince Mr. Incognito that on a Wednesday, maybe we should talk about UFOs or weird stuff. Maybe he'll join. I don't know. We'll see. I'm considering it, but this is the last show tentatively for the year because we're going to be doing Christmas. And I thought since it is the winter solstice today officially, that we would talk about this. And I'm going to show scenes from Stonehenge and all sorts of stuff. We're going to go into different things in the past and the present. I've got clips to show from commercials. I've got pictures of my Christmases when I was little. I got a whole bunch of stuff all about Christmas. But needless to say, a lot of the stuff that we celebrate about Christmas is not very Christian. It's very pagan. And really, Christians, their big celebration that they would have celebrated, like raw Christianity way back when, would have been the resurrection, basically the crucifixion, and then the resurrection of Christ. That is literally the crux of Christianity in the New Testament. So all of this stuff that we celebrate now with Christmas is very much linked to Saturnalia and then other different celebrations that were happening in the pagan world that was obviously incorporated over time or infiltrated, whatever word you want to use, by the actual church, because as expanded and grew and spread across different regions, obviously it's going to behave in different ways depending where it goes, or depending on the people. Um, so we're going to be getting into that stuff today. But before we do, remember, if you're coming in here and you have not subscribed yet, remember to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. This helps it grow. And don't forget to comment, participate, that all this stuff, the algorithm's watching, and within the first 10, 20 minutes, the more active we are, the better. It's, you can train your algorithm. The more you watch this, the more you click on stuff like this or my shorts or anything like that, the more I show up in your algorithm. So choose what you want. Don't let the algorithm or everybody else choose it for you. You get to actually train your algorithm. You can do it. That guy that we were talking about on the last show, who was talking about the Roblox. He talks about this, how you can train your algorithm. Instead of training your dragon, you're training your algorithm. So thumbs up. I really appreciate everybody for being here today. It's a great time of the year. I didn't actually even decorate this year because I just finished painting and renovating. I will put everything up next year. So I just feel like I can chill, and I'm toasting you guys off with a glass of wine. And you notice our intro music today was the Nutcracker Suite. I just went last Wednesday and seen the Nutcracker Suite ballet for my first time. I had not seen the ballet, so I went and seen it. It was a smaller production, really well done. And so I thought, it's in the library. I don't have to pay for it. I won't get community, or copyright strikes. So let's start it with a little Tchaikovsky, a little Nutcracker Suite to bring in the season. There is so much to talk about. We're not going to get through it. And I know a lot of my audience members, as you guys stream in, a few of you are probably said you're going to come, but you'll be streaming it. A lot of you know this, so you can lend me a helping hand here. And because a lot of you may even that are in my audience probably are very familiar or are practicing pagans, or very familiar with the history. And most of us in North America, many of us will have English, Irish, Welsh. You might have some Northern European, Germanic ancestry, and you've done research and you're kind of given an ode to this sort of paganism that is the root of your bloodline or your tradition that was mixed with Christianity. And so we know that originally there really isn't a mention, like Jesus's birth. Some people say July, some people say December, but really December was Saturnalia. That was a Roman celebration. As you know, the Romans took over Christianity because it was popular, and of course they adapted such. They kind of turned him into this Mithra character. Jesus becomes this character born of a virgin, and it's a much longer story than I'm presenting it, but it takes over this December 25th. And of course, the 21st, which we're going to talk about as well, is today, and that is the winter solstice. So we're going to get into starting that. But first, I want to remind you what's out there. We've gone into this before. I want to remind you guys what is out there in terms of Christianity today, especially in America, in these mega churches. This is how they celebrate Christianity. I'm pretty sure the real Jesus would be rolling over in his grave, but don't tell them that, because they won't buy formula for a baby if a woman calls, but they'll have these mega church events. And I'm pretty sure I can play this without getting copyright. Iconic Christmas show at this huge mega church in Texas. They spend so much money on propaganda, manipulation, and these lavish shows. They actually sell people buy tickets for these shows, so they spend a lot of money in production, but they make it back. Let's watch how Christmas is playing out for Christians, evangelical Christians. And I've heard some of the evangelicals denounce how we practice Christians with Christmas tree, et cetera, because they know it's pagan, which is really funny. But this is how it plays out today. Let's just look at today, and then we'll go back in history and we'll talk about several things. And if there's something you have in mind or a tradition that you know of in your past, feel free to mention it in the chat, and we'll try to look it up and go through it.
Church in Texas does this massive Christmas show every year. Yes, it is very over the top, kind of Vegas style, with people flying through the air, and it is absolutely incredible. Let me tell you a little bit about it. This show is called The Gift of Christmas, and it's separated into two parts. First is a very traditional Christmas theme, so they do fun renditions of all the holiday classics like Jingle Bells, 12 Days of Christmas, Santa Claus is coming to town, hence the Flying Santa. The second half is the story of the birth of Jesus Christ. They bring out live camels, sheep, zebras, everything. Like, these are the angels coming to announce the birth of Jesus. So cool. Now, I know this being in a church can be a little controversial, but all these people are volunteers and the proceeds go toward putting on the show. When I was younger, we went to a Christmas show just like this, and it was the highlight of the holidays for me. I feel like this is such a fun, family-friendly show to enjoy. And for a lot of people, it's a great opportunity and an exciting way to learn about the birth of Jesus Christ. This huge...
Okay. So that's Christianity today, basically a Vegas sideshow. Probably most of you, if you're into the solstice or the actual celebrations in Christmas, this is a time of year. I mean, I'll give it to them. It's a time of year, especially in England, where it's like the Lord of Misrule, where people get to switch positions. Like, I don't mean sex positions, guys, so don't get dirty. I mean, they get to switch roles, like the Lord of Misrule. They get to create havoc or be a king for a day. Things are topsy-turvy for a little bit, and people can get away with a little bit more. They can eat a little bit more, but me, I'm hyper skeptical of these churches, because they're like, oh, these workers, they're all volunteers and they volunteer for this. This church is hoarding in money. You know it. I know it. They just are. So this is, I guess, where we're at, because we're so used to mega churches, Costco, mega banks, mega everything, that we can't understand anything about Christmas in this context. Which, the irony of this is not Jesus's birthday, and I don't know if the story of Jesus's birthday could a lot be myth, with the three wise men and the star guiding. It could be a metaphor for astrology. So it's just so crazy. Somebody on X's front burner is being disruptive. So front burner says hello. He's on Kick. Welcome to the show, front burner. He says something about my AI mod. Yeah, I can see your stuff, front burner, in my system, so I bring it up. It's but it's really disruptive. I'm not going to bring it up right now in front of everybody. But this is the irony of this: is you're learning about the birth of something, which a lot of it is propaganda in the Bible, where he probably wasn't even born at this time of year. So it's like they're kind of stamping their stuff over the real winter solstice. And we're going to get into that, of course, looking at what today means. And of course, look, the winter solstice, essentially, if you look at it literally, astronomically, it's the moment when the sun reaches its lowest point in the sky because Earth is tilted farthest away from it. After the solstice, the days start getting longer again. So this is the longest night, and after this day is the return of the light. And we've talked about this before, where pagans were so affected and so in touch with, and in goddess cultures as well, they were so in touch with nature that they are observing this. They understand that this switch is happening, and we are so out of touch with it and in touch with mega churches that we don't even observe this or give credence to it at all, where this is an important time of the year where in polytheism or goddess cultures, they're doing rituals because they want to ensure that the light returns for the next season. They want to keep the cycles going. And so they develop a lot of these rituals and religious beliefs and processes that ensure that this ushers in this being a hallmark of an evening, a day where they watch the sun rise up, basically hit that mark at the lowest point in the sky, and they can then line it up. They're so in touch with nature, they observe it, they know here's the day. And of course they're probably on an entirely different calendar. The Julian calendar, it's shifting. The dates shift and change with each calendar that have been created. I don't have the specifics on that right now, so we won't get into that, but they can see that point and they know, okay, here we go, we are now in this era. We are now in this stage of the year. For them, it might have been their new year because it marks that time where it's about to shift and the days will start getting longer. So you're returning to that old cycle. And it is also just like Halloween. I know you guys might not think of Christmas as ghost story or a scary time, but there is a darkness theme here because it's still this era, where things are dead, the leaves are gone, the veil is thin, you might be able to communicate, you might see mysterious stuff. It's still more dark. And ghost stories are they're a big part, especially in Victorian culture. Ghost stories are a huge part of Christmas, and you'll see this prediction, runes, doing sort of, what would you call it, like a seeing into the future, clairvoyance, all ties in this thing. And we're gonna see some fun videos. We're gonna go through this, but before I do, remember, I'm giving you guys a cheers. I'm having my glass of wine. It's a vampire wine. I'm having one glass today. I had one glass last night. I have some for Christmas Day. I generally don't drink for the year, but Christmas and my birthday, it's like, yeah, okay, we're allowed to. So we're having our toast. Wine would have been a big thing. Feasting would have been a big thing. It's kind of their way of controlling. We have our way of trying to control the environment, but we think we're the gods. This is their way of giving to the gods, giving to that nature and the ancestors to influence goodwill, influence how the year is going to go, influence that light to come back so they can have the people being born, the cattle being born in the spring, the crops coming, life coming back, food coming back, abundance coming back. And of course, right at that Halloween time before Christmas, they've slaughtered a lot of their cattle, stored the food up for the winter. It's like hibernation mode. They're following the real element of it. But let's go into a couple of videos. We're going to look at Stonehenge. And if you've never been to Stonehenge, of course, it's a huge mecca to celebrate because obviously when the sun rises to that lowest point, whether it's summer solstice, winter solstice, summer, it would be higher, right? Obviously, that the Stonehenge is believed, and they can see it's like it marks it for the celebration. It's like a temple of sorts. So we're going to go check out Stonehenge Stone Circle Reels. And there's so many different creatures too. There's so many different creatures in with pagan and Christian. We're not going to paganism and Christmas, Yule. We're not going to get into it, but we're going to start with our Stonehenge. Now, I was in Stonehenge back in 2012. It was freezing cold, winds whipping across the plains. It's pretty open, but it was a great experience. So let's watch them watch the sunrise. I think there's a couple of them watching the sunrise. Let's see this one here. The next one. There's the sun coming up. You can see it's rising. They're bringing in the winter solstice here. I love the drumming. Okay, and there it is.
Hear us now, confirming this our sacred vow. Give it more welly, come on. We swear by peace and love to stand.
The sun is
heart to heart and hand in hand.
And then we've got this one here. Nice shot of the sun. Oh, this is the autumn equinox. This has gone right around. We don't want that. Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but they had the winter one here. So that one was the autumn. Here's some pictures of the winter. Here we go. This is the one we want. So that was the winter one. I was accidentally, when I was going through the reels, for whatever reason, it went to the autumn and the summer, which are magical nonetheless. The autumn and the summer. So we got. Let's just go through. I want to say hi to everybody. Incognito. Genocide is on the run, but he's going to be in later. But he's saying Happy Yule. We've got Dorothy. Happy Winter Solstice. We've got somebody trying to sell me something over at Kick. Of course, Front Burner was over at Kick. Kirby in the room. Hello, Kirby. I don't know if there's like a vampire for the Christmas. I know there's Krampus and there's all sorts of spooky figures. There's a Christmas witch. There's probably a Christmas donkey over in Italy. Like there's all sorts of interesting traditions. It depends what European country you go to. They all have their own history and their names. So in reference to megachurch, presenting this type of Christmas celebration is making people feel that if they don't play into the material crap, they feel bad. So again, a form of control through the human spirit. Well, and I think that this type of Christmas that we're looking at, these megachurches, it's just depicting, it's a reflection of how disconnected we are from the world and nature and how supremely we feel we control it. And yeah, the manufacturing is definitely a thing, and the materialism. You know, it's nice to have stuff. It's nice to know you can go and get stuff and have these stores and have this structure, but at the same time, it's gotten so distant from who humans actually are that you can't help but think this time of year at some point we'll be celebrating, I don't know, transhumanism and bot babies or something, really babies out of a pod and nothing organic. even though we are surrounded by the organic world, it literally affects everything we do. So that was the solstice. They had some really fantastic pictures going on. Let's see if we can find, yeah, here we got another clip of the winter solstice over at Stonehenge. Love the drumming. And now the thing is when it comes to like Christmas over there and the celebrations, I think a lot of Americans, especially get the evangelicals, they think they're doing witchcraft and they're evil. It's so disjointed. I hate to hear it because this is their heritage. They are reaching back because they have these amazing thousands and thousands of year old landmarks and temples and structures like Avebury and Stonehenge. They're reaching back to their ancestors and celebrating it in a way that, like, when I compare that solstice, winter solstice celebration to the mega church, like, I don't know, I'd rather be at Stonehenge or some stone circle than to be prancing around in the Santa. And I mean, you can go watch how Santa evolved. Like, he evolved from the Saint Nicholas, a darker character, into this rosy cheeked character. Very much marketing, modern marketing, American marketing. You know, it probably really got into sway with "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" by Clement C. Moore, and there's a lot of capitalism marketing that goes in. So it's the early form. You can see the Christmas we have now kind of merging out of there, where it becomes about business and marketing rather than about a spiritual thing or an organic process that we're going through, and you can see that happening. Now, we were talking about it, Saturnalia and the process. That was a very Roman celebration. It wasn't necessarily a Norse or Saxon or, Druid type of celebration. In fact, I don't know if we probably don't know a lot about the Druid celebrations just because they were literally massacred and slaughtered off. Like I said in one of the shows we did, that we don't know what they did. We know they probably celebrated these passings of time because many of those cultures did, but we don't know because the Romans slaughtered them. They got rid of them. And I know there was darkness, human sacrifice. I'm guaranteeing you all of that was a thing. But 100%, a lot of it's also propaganda against them. So we don't really know, but you get this sense that people are trying to capture the old ways. They're trying to be in sync with that culture that is long gone and has been replaced by, I don't know, what mega stores do you have in England? I'm Tesco. I don't know what you guys have, but it's like Costco. But I want to show you some Welsh. I'm going to show you the video. It's the Mary Lwyd. It's an old Welsh figure that one would celebrate around the winter solstice, around Christmas. It's a figure that is very ancient and pagan, but has still being practiced today in some small communities. People are trying to keep it alive. And I'm going to introduce you to Mary Lwyd. It's like this skeletal horse figure. It's Welsh tradition. Let's go into the Mary Lwyd. She's calling it the zombie horse. It's not a zombie horse, but anyways, check this out. You may not have heard it. It's someone will be dressed up in this costume and they will knock and go to your door and you have to sing a song. You have to do this sing song thing with them. And I think it's like a competition so that you don't die or something like that. I know. Let's hear the song of the Mary Lwyd by this.
So another weird and wonderful singing tradition that we have here in Wales is that of the Mary Lwyd. Now, this was a tradition in Wales where around New Year's time, farmers would go from house to house with a horse's skull on a stick and sing to gain entry into a house for beer and food and general merriment. But it wasn't going to be that easy to get in because the person on the inside of the house would sing insulting rhymes back at them, basically, and not allow them to gain entry. And the Mari Lloyd party had to make their case, essentially, to gain entry through song. And eventually, when the person inside the house ran out of reasons not to let them in, they'd be invited in for food and beer and cause chaos in the house.
Okay, so we're going to have a look here because they're going to actually show, I'm going to show you a Mari Lloyd type of figure so you can see what it looks like. And then there's this one. This is a
12
good
Nights of Dark Christmas, and tonight we're talking about Marie Lloyd, the skeletal Christmas horse of Wales. So Marie Lloyd is a Welsh custom ghost horse, literally a horse's skull, mounted on a pole, draped in white fabric, and decorated with ribbons and bells. I'm a little concerned as to where they're getting all these horse skulls from. Some of them also look a lot cleaner than this. This one obviously appears to be a real horse.
Okay, she's wondering where they got the horse skulls from. Probably horses die. They would have had lots of horses in those days, and if a horse died, they would probably keep its skull. That's just such a Valley Girl thing to ask. I just thought it would have been obvious.
Skull, but I have seen other ones that are super white, almost like they've been bleached, which maybe they have, but I'm wondering if some of them are fake or just replicated horse skulls. This one obviously appears to be real. So what is Marie Lloyd? In older traditions, Marie Lloyd...
It's Mara Lude. Anyways, let's hear this one. I think she's better.
A delightful Christmas and New Year's Eve tradition in South Wales that features a horse's skull mounted on a pole. To put it simply, Mari Lwyd is a horse that wants to get into your house and eat and drink everything that you have.
Okay, we gotta stop listening to the Americans talk about it. It's just too funny. People are correcting them on how to say it, and they're like, OMG, that like zombie horse is like trying to steal your like fucking punch, man. Like, what's going on with the Mary Lloyd? I have to stop. I have to stop. Everybody in England is like, in Wales is like cringing. They're like, what are you talking about? But that's a tradition. It's like kind of like wassailing, and that kind of gets into a lot of traditions. Wassailing, caroling, all that stuff, where essentially we're giving greetings and tidings. And no, do you see people do caroling today? I think the Mormon Church does it still. I don't see people doing caroling very much anymore. Not at all. But there was a community point of it. Song, dance, feasting, all a huge part. I'm going to get this video up because I think it's going to direct us into a good scene. Because every region, like I say, has its own God, there's so much commercials. I'd pay for YouTube, but I'm just not that Oh, we got eating like a slab for Christmas. We got food history, food traditions. I'm not even going to be able to get into this all. Okay. Sorry, I'm just switching over. I had to look for it, and I've got to switch my screen. Uh-huh. Okay, Christmas you be terrifying. A lot of people say it's not about the darkness, but like I told you before, there's a scary element. Look at the German Krampus. We'll talk about him briefly. Scary. Beating children, shoving them in his knapsack and taking them away. The idea that someone's watching you and you have to behave so you won't get presents. There's some scary stuff. There's some child trauma. You know it. I know it. Okay, so let's go through the chapters here. The roots of winter before Christmas. So this is it before Christmas. So let's have a look at that.
Our story of Christmas begins in an age of stone and silence, long before the first word of the first carol was ever sung. It starts in the fertile heart of Neolithic Ireland, in a river valley the Celts would later call Brúna Bóna, the dwelling of the gods. Here, more than 5,000 years ago, a settled farming community accomplished a monumental feat of engineering and will. They erected a structure that is older than the pyramids of Giza, more ancient than the blue stones of Stonehenge. Its name is Newgrange, and it is a temple built to command the light of the reborn sun. From the air, Newgrange appears as a great, pale...
So as you see, that is the huge element. I mentioned this before, where you're trying to bring back the newborn son. That's why when you hear a lot of this, even in Christianity, the Son of God, they're talking about bringing back the actual son. There is a lot in Christianity and in the Bible that is actually referencing astrology. And you can see these themes through almost every culture, where, especially northern cultures, it's going to be darker, because guess what? In northern cultures, it's colder weather. And I'm not saying the southern cultures don't have winter, but I think it's a little bit more extreme. You go to northern Canada and you're getting a very cold winter, and the same would have been true. It probably would have been colder in England back in those days, is my guess.
Drum in the green earth, a circular mound almost 300 feet across. Its purpose was forgotten for millennia. Local folklore knew it only as a she, a fairy mound, the hollow hill where supernatural...
So it's funny, they're calling them fairy mounds, and it's actually a temple meant to celebrate Solstice and bringing in different elements. So a lot of things that, a lot of things we make stories up about probably had some deep religious rooted element in the passings of the seasons, the sky, how it was up to the people to appeal to whatever sources, the ancestors, the gods, to help them bring back the light. And this is the most simplest terms that I could put it in. We're going to go from that. So we've talked about the Irish themes. Now we're going to talk about Saturnalia really quickly, and then I'm going to show you guys another video kind of talking about Santa and Saturnalia, and this idea. So we've talked about the roots in England. Now we're going to hop over to Rome and talk about Saturnalia.
I turned being underestimated into billions.
Uh-oh. Billions. Oh my God.
From the silent earthen mounds of Neolithic Ireland, our story moves south and forward in time into the heart of the world's greatest empire. We arrive in Rome, a city built on order, law, and a rigid social hierarchy. For the Romans, the end of the harvest and the approach of the winter solstice signaled a time to honor one of their oldest and most revered deities, the god Saturn. The festival dedicated to him was Saturnalia, and it was a period of state-sanctioned chaos that temporarily dissolved the very foundations of Roman life. The festival's time...
Okay, you will hear on this show where we talk about Saturn worship. Saturn worship comes from Rome, Saturnalia. So we could be doing some kind of weird Saturn worship here too. And a lot of these families that we don't know the name of that rule the world, they hail from Rome. You can bet they do. And they still practice Saturn worship. And a lot of Christians find that really freaky or scary. But I just say, okay, well, that's how it was in those times. I don't know what it means. You could be afraid of it or you could understand it more. But this is Saturn worship right here that we're talking about that happened at this time.
Timing was directly linked to the agricultural calendar, beginning on the 17th of December. Originally a single day of rites, its immense popularity caused it to swell over the centuries, eventually lasting for a full week, culminating just before the winter solstice. The Roman poet Catullus called it the best of days, and for many citizens, it was the most.
Now remember, they're not dealing with the harshest winters like you would be in the northern climates. That's why when we're celebrating Christmas today, we see a lot of things like holly and evergreen and things like that because they are obviously what was left in the winter that showed that they could endure the cold, they could endure the climate, and they still showed greenery. So they were very important, interpreting as being important symbols of life, bonfires, all that stuff. Again, same with Halloween as it was Christmas. It's to bring the light back. Bringing the light back is super important. That's why I always find it interesting that everybody wants to block the sun out. It's so bizarre. I get their global warming idea, but if they really didn't want global warming, they could just stop all their wars. That would reduce tons of pollution, tons of it, but they won't do that. Okay, so we got the Saturnalia. And let's go to Germany. We're going to do a few minutes on Germany. And actually, no, we'll go to Germany in a second. I'm going to overlay here. I want to show you a little bit that talks about Santa and Saturnalia. Just a couple-minute video. Check it out.
And we, your protectorate, are happy to accept any gifts you want to give us.
Long after the Romans, Saturnalia persisted as part of the midwinter celebrations in Europe.
We know that in the great castles of the nobles of the Middle Ages that you had lords of misrule and jesters jolly-hoiting about the place and overeating and overdrinking, and whether that was a celebration in honor of the Christ child or was it a kind of folk memory of the Saturnalia is a moot point.
People behaved so badly that when the Puritans came to power, they actually banned Christmas. There's nothing in the Bible about celebrating the Nativity. There's not even a clue about at what time of year it took place.
The decision to assign Christ's birthday to the 25th of December, the winter solstice on the Julian calendar, was inevitably going to be a compromise. Even so, over the centuries, St. Nicholas's popularity grew no more so than in the Netherlands. Every year, on a Sunday morning in mid-November, the quiet streets of Amsterdam are invaded by hundreds and thousands of people. They are all eagerly awaiting the arrival of a very special guest.
St. Nicholas and his servants, we call them Black Peters, are arriving from Spain in a steamer in the harbor of a big city. In the 17th century, they started to call him Sinterklaas. In English, Saint Sir Klaas. And when you have pronounced...
And we, your protectorate, are happy to accept it.
I don't know why that came back on, but that's just it just talks about what is Saturnalia. Is it Saturn worship? Is it Christ child? And as the empire of Rome expanded, they would have merged with all these cultures. So you're seeing a metamorphosis, a merging of cultures and different traditions, but yet these ancient traditions are still holding fast. And they quickly mention in that video, really briefly mention about the kind of Protestant religions going crazy because even through medieval times, Christmas was this time of, like I said, the Lord of Misrule, drinking, feasting, merrymaking, troublemaking even, and they were having none of that. And they went to the absolute extreme. It's like you start getting these polar responses from these really rigid Christians who just believe in celebrating Christ and the resurrection in this really strict religious ways, observing really strict behaviors and rules. The Christian church did not want you to do these things like divination. Anything would have been seen as an affront to the power of the Catholic Church or the Christian Church, Catholic Church, Orthodox. It would have been seen as an affront to that. So a lot of that stuff is being banned and slowly outlawed, and then they're picking up the pace. They get aggressive. You see this in any politics. They'll imply something, they'll do a soft kind of propaganda, and as things get rolling and they want more power, we see this happening right now, they get more harsh, even to the point that they will start to get rid of people and execute people and do terrible things to certain communities. And we have the same thing here with this merger, and you can see them talking about Rome. They had different pagan celebrations. In Ireland, they had much older pagan celebrations. I'm sure we can find something totally different in Mesopotamia that doesn't even relate to any of our calendars because of the weather. A lot of this is about the weather and the seasons change. So if your seasons are different in different times of the year, obviously, and you're observing nature, you're going to come up with something different to celebrate, or it's going to affect what you celebrate and how you think of yourself and your world and your environment. And so for the northern cultures, this idea of darkness, it's really dark. Like it's really dark for longer, and then in the summer it's lighter for longer. You have a much more extreme experience of the seasons. Just saying. Just saying. And we talked of Mari Lwyd. Very much one of those kind of mischief-making things that they would have celebrated in most specifically Wales, but I think some places in little villages in England might correct me if I'm wrong. If you're from England, they might celebrate that now as well, or they might have their own version of that, of door-to-door singing. It's kind of like trick-or-treating in a way from Halloween, but you're singing a song and you don't want candy. You want the good stuff. You want a drink of ale. You know, you maybe want some of their cheese or their bread. They're good. So we want to leave. We're going to leave. We're going to go into the Germanic solstice and the rebirth of the sun because they have seen it different. And then one of my favorite figures is the Holly King. We're going to go into Holly King, the Wild Hunt, Saint Nicholas. He went from a Turkish bishop to money marketing mogul iconic figure. But let's start with Germany. My husband's half German, so it's a good place to start. That's where we get.
You've been told that what you're feeling is just aging, that it's normal, that if you're still having a period, your hormones must be fine.
We journey now from the structured cities of the Roman Empire to the north, entering the vast dark forests and storm-lashed coastlines of ancient Germania. Here, among the Germanic and later Norse peoples, the winter solstice was met with a different kind of ceremony, one born from a world of deep snows, biting winds, and a profound, oppressive darkness. Their survival was a constant, desperate struggle.
And you see how the weather patterns and the location geographically is going to affect the culture. So in England, compared to Germany, you're having very different winters. If you're down in South America, you're having a completely different experience. Maybe you're not as concerned with the same rituals. So that's the important thing to remember, is why I want to hop to different cultures to show you how they perceived the winter solstice.
And the rites of this season reflected the grim realities of that life. They called this period Yule or Yule. The name Yule is ancient, its exact origins debated, but it is linguistically connected to words that signify the turning of a great wheel. This points to the festival's fundamental purpose, to mark and celebrate the great turning point of the solar year. The sun, often personified as a wheel of fire, had reached its lowest point on the horizon.
So you see, it's very interesting to hear these different metaphors that describe the passing of the year. They have the wheel of fire that represents the sun at its lowest point. And then it's going to start the cycle over again. So very, very fascinating ways of nature being interpreted so people can understand it in a physical concept.
Yule rites or the magical and religious effort the community exerted to ensure this wheel would begin its slow climb once more, bringing light and life back to the frozen world. Our understanding of pre-Christian Yule is pieced together from fragments. Roman historians like Tacitus provided fleeting outside glimpses. Centuries later, Christian monks in Iceland and Germany, like Snorri Sturluson, wrote down the great sagas and poems, preserving the mythology of their ancestors even as their faith sought to supplant it. These sources, like the Poetic Edda and the Heims.
This is so calming. I actually feel like having a nap. This just gives you an idea that they had the sagas and different stories that Matthew would probably know more about this than I would, because he's written like a lot about I think, is it called the Vinlada? I'm gonna butcher it. He wrote a lot about Norse sagas and history and runes, so he knows a lot about that. Matthew Lee Ambleton, author, MLE author. His TikTok, he does a lot of stuff about tarot and Egyptian culture right now, but he's done a lot on Norse, so you might want to go check out his TikTok or his many books that talk about that. But that is Germanic, where things are darker. They have this wheel of fire, and they're doing probably celebrations to keep this wheel going. So it returns to this part of the year where it's easier to get by, it's easier to thrive. Now we're going to go from that into the Holly King and the Oak King, and look at also the Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt features massively in English history, in that type of the world. You hear that in folkloric, in a lot of European folklore. But first, let's talk about the Holly King and how he features in sort of a pagan Christian. He also features in modern Christian. Go watch any Christmas Carol. You'll see the ghost of Christmas Present is very much a Holly King type of figure. I was just watching George C. Scott's Christmas Carol the other day, and they have the same actor who was in The Wicker Man as the unfortunate police officer who gets sacrificed at the end. He plays the Holly King kind of ghost of Christmas Present. Really amazing acting job. I had no idea it was the same actor who literally gets offered up as a pagan sacrifice in a Christopher Lee movie. Really good, like amazing acting. Paul from Newcastle, welcome, says, I was just thinking conspiracy Christmas crackers. Everybody gets a tinfoil hat. Whoo! Just don't heat up the tinfoil and you'll be okay, because it's aluminum. It's not really tinfoil, is it? It's aluminum. Is not so good. So let's go look at the Holly King and the Oak King, and then I've got tons of other videos to share. We're going to get through this together, I guess. The Holly King is one of my favorite icons. The holly and the ivy, the evergreen. It's, to me, like the great Christmas icons.
The human need to personify the great forces of nature.
I don't know. That Holly King's looking a little evil. I don't know why they have them looking so evil, because I always see them as joyous, like a father figure, and they're looking a little demonic. This AI stuff's a little weird. I'm not digging down with it.
Is a constant theme in mythology. The struggle between winter and summer, darkness and light, is one of the most fundamental conflicts in the human experience. A powerful modern myth that captures this eternal battle is the story of two brother kings locked in a perpetual cycle of combat and succession, the Oak King and the Holly King. This tale provides a compelling narrative for the turning of the year's great wheel. The myth presents two mighty rulers, twins or two aspects of a single solar deity. The Oak King is the lord of the waxing year. He is a figure of expansion, growth, and vibrant life. He is crowned with oak and green leaves, and his reign begins at the winter.
So you see that these two figures, the Holly King is going to be the more wintry figure, and the Oak King is going to be the more summer and spring figure, being life. And you can see how they're taking real nature and putting it as an archetype in these two figures, the Oak King and the Holly King, and why this the importance of these figures, there's always an importance of all archetypes. You just go to Star Wars and it's riddled with archetypes that are important for narratives to help us deal with things. This narrative's helping us deal with the transition between two halves of the year, really. It's like the darker and the lighter part of the year, the darker and the lighter aspects within humanity, within our own personality.
Solstice midwinter. From that point on, his power grows with each passing day as the sun climbs higher in the sky, bringing warmth and life back to the world. He rules over the spring and summer. His counterpart is the Holly King, the lord of the waning year. He is a figure of withdrawal, introspection, and the slumbering strength of the earth. He is crowned with holly and ivy, the evergreen plants.
So I can tell why I like him better. He's withdrawal and introspective. I'm that way all year round, Holly King. It's not just December. I'm like that. Unless you got a good swimming hole in the summer to go to, I'll be out there swimming. But I totally relate with Holly King. Introspection, withdrawal, hibernation. What's that? The good King Wenceslas. It's wintertime. He finds that poor person. I'm relating to the Holly King, that male figure in the winter. It's such a great icon.
That show their vitality in the depths of winter. His reign begins at the summer solstice, midsummer. From that day forward, his power grows as the sun weakens and days shorten, plunging the world into the necessary cold and darkness of autumn and winter. The two solstices are the moments of their ritual combat. At the summer solstice, the Holly King attacks the Oak King at the height of his power, defeats him, and takes his crown. He then reigns as the days grow shorter. At the winter solstice, the roles are reversed. The Oak King, now reborn and renewed, rises to challenge the Holly King, defeats him in turn, and reclaims his rule.
You see, so the Oak King is going to come back into power now. And you see this orality? This is orality. This is why they told things in tales. They didn't write it down. They had this oral tradition. And so we're seeing now that this Oak King, as of today, because this is going to be the longest night of the year, and after today, the days will get longer. So he is taking back power. So there's this constant symbiotic kind of they're calling it a battle. You could probably see it as a more harmonious interaction, but they're saying it's sort of a battle, between two halves of the year, basically. And even then, he'll be coming up to his power. And then after 3 months, his power will start waning. And then when he comes to what would it be? The spring to summer, he'll be in full power. And then the summer equinox, he'll lose power. And then this little Holly guy will take over. That's essentially it. So I find that duality, that symbiotic relationship, that kind of conflict, that sort of back and forth between these two figures, very fascinating and a very interesting way of taking something that's real in nature and imbuing it in sort of these nature-like, godlike figures. So we're gonna move on. Now, apparently, John says the Wild Hunt happens around the 18th of December, so we're a little late, but it still plays into this. So we're gonna talk about what the Wild Hunt is. A lot of you may not believe it. It's kind of like this ghostly phenomena that happens like in the sky, literally. I'm being a little valley girl about it right now, so I should be quiet. But let's go through the Wild Hunt. Odin, the god who rode the winter sky. This is very Germanic. This is very Norse. We're kind of leaving UK, I guess. But let's see what they have to say. Oh, that looks like an interesting handcrafted drum thing, but we don't want to advertise to them.
Darkest nights of the Germanic Yule, when the wind howled like a hungry wolf, The people of the north knew to stay inside. They would bar their doors and feed their fires, listening for a sound that chilled the blood more than any winter frost. It was a sound that began as a distant rumbling, growing into the thunder of 1,000 hoofbeats, the baying of unearthly hounds, and the cry of a celestial hunting horn. This was the sound of the Wildejagd. It was the wild hunt. This terrifying procession was a core belief in the folklore of Northern Europe for centuries. It was a spectral army, a phantasmal cavalcade that galloped across the winter sky during the liminal period of Yule. The hunt was seen as a real and present danger, a supernatural storm that could sweep away the unwary and the unfortunate. To witness it was to court madness or death. The composition of the hunt varied in local traditions, but the core elements remained constant.
You see how a lot of the Norse traditions are very dark? Not that the British ones aren't, because we're going to get into a little ghost story. I can't play. I recommend all of you to find Christmas ghost stories. They're on YouTube. They're there. Go. I mean, A Christmas Carol is a really good example of that whole thing. He's visited by spirits, the spirit of his old business partner, the spirit of ghosts of Christmas past, present, and Christmas that has not yet been. It's the entire tome is a ghost story. So I recommend you realize that this is a massive, the spirits and people from beyond communicating and saying, hey, look, you're doing some horrible things. You need to change your ways. You need to bring humanity in a better place. Is important at this time of year. We seem to be out of touch with that in America, insanely amount so, but it's important. And this sort of I wanted to bring this about to show you kind of the darkness that can happen in the Norse with the wild hunt, but it's past. So if you didn't see it, you're lucky, because if you've seen this in the sky, trouble. It's not a good thing to see and witness, because apparently you go mad. But this is a Norse element. We'll get back. We'll talk about Dickens. We'll talk about a whole bunch of different things with Christmas. I got Christmas pictures. I got Christmas everything. I'm not sure if we should take a break and come back. We're going to take a 5-minute break and put some Christmas music on. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about some different, the Frau, the witch Christmas, the Christmas witch, everything like that. We're going to do like a 3 or 4 minute bathroom break. Then we'll come back and we'll do the second hour in a moment. I'm going to turn my camera off, put my Christmas music on and Christmas greetings. You got 3 or 4 minutes. You can sit down and relax, but I will be right back. I promise. You're not going to hear me because I'm going to turn my camera off, and we will be going to Christmas Music Land. All right, I'm back. I went and gave all my puppies a hugging kiss, greeted them. My husband's out in the living room saying, I'm finding out so much about Yule, so I hope you guys are finding out a whole bunch about Yule. A lot of this stuff is stuff that I knew in general, but it's hard to remember all of it. It's so vast, so that's why it's good to do some guidelines with some video and jump up the footage, but it just shows you, like I said to my husband, like the culture in the area and where you're from is going to dictate how you perceive the change of the seasons. We've got Genocide. This is a fascinating one. He says the song Ghost Riders in the Sky is a version of the lore of the Wild West. That's interesting. Paul from Newcastle, who would know about this very much so, says we have a big Christmas display of Christmas Carol on YouTube, Fenwick's Christmas Window 2025. Check out Fenwick's Christmas Window 2025. Put that in YouTube and you'll get a Christmas display of Christmas Carol, which is totally what would you say? The iconic Christmas story. And it really, I mean, we could use that today because it's a response to basically some kind of crony type of capitalism saying, look, we need to take care of the poor. There's these people that are amassing great amounts of wealth and we're throwing poor in workhouses and treating them terribly and paying them nothing so they can't survive. This is something we could really, revisit today. I don't want to get into a political rant, but it is something that we commercialize all this and may even make money off Christmas Carol and movies today, but nobody really, does it. Not to the level that it needs to be done. Anyways, we're going to go back to our screen. Also, Genocide said he has a Wild Hunt tattoo in his north sleeve. That's very cool. I wanted to do an owl or something somewhere, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe one day in the future. That's very cool. A Wild Hunt tattoo. Very dark. Very pagan. Now we're going to go back to our screen. I'm going to switch it because I want to go on. We'll come back to this video because we're going to go into why we give gifts and all that stuff. We'll go into that, but I want to go back to some of these figures that are in Christmas, including also different, I've got things about different meals, different things that people cook. We're going to look at some different figures in pagan that would be about the winter solstice or Yule or this time of year in different celebrations. And this one is sort of like a Christmas witch, Frau Perchta, the winter witch. So this is some type of folklore, but let's see what Frau Perchta is.
Winter witch who punishes the lazy and rewards the good. This winter witch originates from Alpine regions, from Austria, Bavaria, Switzerland, and Germany. Frau Perchta has two forms, one being a beautiful woman in white, radiant and maternal, as well as a hideous crone, with a hooked nose, an animal foot, and long tangled hair. In pre-Christian Germanic and Alpine folklore, she was once likely a goddess, a pagan goddess. She was tied to winter, fate, household order, and women's labor. When Christianity spread, she was demonized into a terrifying figure, roaming the 12 nights of Christmas, entering homes unseen, inspecting behavior, especially when people get their spinning work done, and whether children and adults behave properly. A methodical and moralistic figure, she rewards diligence, cleanliness, and respect for tradition, while punishing laziness, disobedience, gluttony, and disrespect to women's labor. A powerful winter witch/goddess, she is quite capable of shapeshifting and...
I don't know. Are we really greedy when we're doing feasts right now? I like that she punishes people who downs female labor. I like that shtick. I think that's good. I like her. And even I, at this time of the year, the neighbor bring us some cookies yesterday, and we had some. And I'm not supposed to have wheat and stuff, so I feel kind of crappy. But yeah, I try to make everything like as healthy as possible. We indulge a bit, but I hear you, Frau. I hear you. I'll be on my best behavior. I promise. Promise. Let's finish this video.
Turning herself invisible, winter manipulation, supernatural strength, able to control fate and fortune and cast curses on people, as well as having command over spirits and seasonal forces. Her most brutal punishments involve slitting open the bellies of the lazy, stuffing them with straw, pebbles, and garbage, and sewing them back up.
Okay, you can see why German fairy tales were so dark. They were so dark. This is German, Alpine, Switzerland, like in the northern countries or kingdoms in those days. You can see that they're very dark. What is it? Grimm's fairy tale. A lot of the German fairy tales were like, there's a figure that comes and cuts your thumb off or something. It's crazy. It's yeah. You can kind of see why this is, but at the root, environment affects that appeal. Environment, and it does. Befana in Italian is very similar. So they've got a female figure that German Krampus. I'll look up a video on Krampus. Krampus is scary. That's my mom. My mom thought she took my son to a Krampus Christmas movie when he was younger, and I don't think she realized it was scary, and he came back. He told me he was so scared of it. I was like, oh no, Grandma, Nana shouldn't have taken you to see Krampus. I knew how scary Krampus was. This is like Krampus horror movie. And it wasn't like, Santa Claus goes to town, all the jolly stuff we have today that's a little more kid friendly. It was a little dark, and I think it might have mildly traumatized my son for a little bit, which he lived. He was okay, but he was just like, "Oh, Mom, it really scared me." So my son, as a kid, was really scared of Krampus, and I didn't put it on because I'm one of those like, okay, we got to listen to the kid. Yeah, my mom says she felt horrible. I don't think she realized. I think she thought it was a Christmas movie. And so my poor son, he's like so young, he was traumatized by Krampus. It's effective, but I'm not so sure. It would yeah, I'm not surprised that he didn't like that because he doesn't like scary stuff. He's not like me. Like I could like watch Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 7 years old, and I'd be like, yeah, Freddy. It wouldn't have even bothered me. But my son's very different. You just have to know that. So let's finish off.
And yes, she thinks it's deserved. In pop culture, she appears in the Brothers Grimm stories, the 2017 film Mother Krampus, and she celebrated on Perchtenlauf, a pagan festival tradition where people wear terrifying masks as Perchten. Just remember, during the 12 nights of Christmas, Frau Perchta will be watching you. If you want.
Okay, so don't mess with Frau. She'll bring you down. Don't take your kids to see Krampus if they're a little more sensitive. It's and this was like this is what they would tell kids and show kids, but here's the thing is they told these stories, and the movie is much more visually terrifying and grotesque, I think, than the stories the Germans would tell. So it's just yeah, not so good. So that was Frau Perchta. I believe I have another one. Is it the mega church? Oh, Make Your Day, Winter Solstice on TikTok. I thought I had another one. Let's do TikTok. And let's type in Krampus. So we'll visit Germany and those areas a little bit more. And we will... Good versus evil. This is a good one. I think this will be a good one.
Before he became a horned monster in holiday parades, this creature was part of a much older winter tradition. I'm the gentleman occultist, and let's talk about Krampus. Krampus comes from Alpine folklore. His roots reach back to pre-Christian winter rites that honored the wild forces of nature when the nights grew long. In those traditions, the dark season was a living presence. People believed that spirits walked the land, and that winter demanded both respect and ritual. And Krampus belonged to that world. He appeared as a horned figure with a long tongue and cloven feet. He carried chains, but they were not originally symbols of punishment. They marked him as a spirit that crossed boundaries. He was part protector and part enforcer. His presence reminded the village that winter had power. As time passed, he became linked with Perchton, the winter spirit who roamed the mountains. These figures brought blessings or warnings depending on how the community behaved. The loud bells worn by Krampus and similar spirits were used to clear out harmful forces and wake the land during the dark months. During the Christian era, Krampus didn't disappear, he adapted. In the Alpine regions, he became the dark companion of Saint Nicholas.
So that's interesting that they kind of adapt him to Saint Nicholas, like light Saint Nicholas and dark Saint Nicholas, like yin and yang kind of thing. That's really interesting. Um, Renee says that's not a family Christmas movie. No, but it's not. But the funny thing is like Gen Xers, I would have been able to handle that movie. Like I'd have been like, oh, what the heck, whatever. Gen Z, generally speaking, no. And I never really had movies on like that. Like I might maybe have the Christmas Carol on or some cartoon on. So it's just like he's fine about it now, but he was like, "Mom, you should see what I saw." It was kind of funny, but it wasn't good, but he was fine. Sometimes scary stuff can make you a little more resilient. You don't want too much. And especially today, we're very much um that kind of stuff would have been normal back then. To tell kids about it's a way to tell the kids about the raw reality of life, or to I don't know, you could look at it as propaganda, like it terrifies kids into behaving. Because it's hard to explain to kids why you should do things because they don't understand the bigger picture. So I think they put it in these stories like this to have an immediate effect on them so they don't go venturing out in the woods, they don't go with strangers. There's all these different stories, but um yeah, he was okay, and, it was just, it was just an unfortunate, like, misinterpretation of what the movie was, and I don't think she knew, that it was this dark German folklore. Most people back then, this was a long time ago, like, didn't know. A lot of people wouldn't know this. I think it's actually more known today as people get exposed to these type of folklores. In her defense, I wouldn't think she knew.
Year rewarded good children, the other made sure the community stayed honest. This pairing preserved the older balance found in pagan winter customs where light and shadow moved together. Krampus was not created to frighten children for entertainment. He represented the wild edge of winter. He confronted laziness, selfishness, and disorder. He protected the
No offense, but I think we need a little bit of that today. I was just looking at our political system. I don't want to get too political, but you know, in China, and I'm not being pro-communist, but if they have a politician that they find taking bribes of millions and millions of dollars, they are literally executed. Like they get execution. They get like that's treason. And I'm thinking we need a little bit of that. Because if people knew that the consequence of their actions were really severe, I think it would have a lot less corruption in politics. Just saying. Just saying, America. I think we need a Krampus to come and kick politicians' ass. Just saying, we need a political Krampus.
Community by carrying away what didn't belong in the new year. His switch or bundle of birch sticks echoed older cleansing rites that swept away misfortune. Modern Krampus celebrations still carry traces of these themes. The costumes, the bells.
We're going to lighten it up. We're going to Disneyfy it, right? We're going to Disneyfy it. And I think that's the thing with our culture is everything has to be nice. Everybody thinks it has to be like how am I going to get this out? That we have to Yeah, you never heard of it. Jonas, I never heard of it till the 90s. Look, 2015, not a lot of people knew about it. It was just starting to show up on the internet. And if you're not German, well, what do you know? Most people don't know about this stuff. And then I've had that where we went in a movie and parents didn't know what it was, and then we figured out what it was, and they were like, "Oh, shoot, we need to take our kids out of here." Like, whoa. I don't know. I figure as long as you sit down with your kids and then after say, okay, I didn't know what that was, and talk to them about it. If my son saw something scary and he was scared, I would just stay up with him and we would talk about it and how it was fiction and how it wasn't real. It wasn't really coming for him. People make mistakes. It doesn't, beyond that, it doesn't mean anything. But that's Krampus to a T, sort of meant to keep people in line, not just children, keep everyone in line. And we don't keep people in line. We let people get away. There's so much narcissism. We let people get away with a lot of stuff. We're like, oh, you're being lazy. You must have ADHD, DDD, bipolar, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to clean up your house. You don't have to do anything. We do it from a young age. And I'm not saying people don't have disabilities or things that prevent them from doing things that are legit, but I think sometimes we make up excuses. We're getting lazy, we're getting more narcissistic, we're definitely getting more corrupt in the politics. It's just so crazy. But that's Krampus. As you can see, the Germans had a darker Christmas heritage. They have a darker heritage in general, and I think you can see that related to the weather. Harsher winters, harsher experiences in the winter. A dark and light is more relevant. There's a more, what would you say, black and white divide. And it's literally with the seasons. You're going to experience the seasons in a different way. You go to Canada and you got what, 2 months of summer? Not a lot of time. And then it starts getting cold again. I don't know, maybe that will change. Renee says, shit, I rented Cat in the Hat for my kids at 6. I never watched that. Yeah, and Dorothy says darker fairy tales. Totally. Grimm's fairy tales. Look at Hansel and Gretel. I mean, they're going to get eaten by a witch, and it's darker than most of the tales from Disney. The original tales are so much darker, and this delves into Christmas and all of this stuff. We're going to do a little hop and a skip back to the other screen, and we're going to get into Dickens, and we're going to get into England. We're going to go more modern and see how this whole celebration that starts out as basically trying to bring more of the light back and doing and appeasing your gods and doing things and talking to your ancestors and trying to get a grasp of what's going to happen in the future, try to control things, and try to do things that engage and bring the light back for that new year. How this kind of is now streaming. We're jumping a whole lot of time, by the way, because we only have a couple hours, but it's streaming right into modern times. But the hint of the ancient is always there. As you see, like Charles Dickens uses the Green Man for his Ghost of Christmas Present. These elements are there, and it comes in the Victorian ghost story and that sort of Christmas that comes from sort of like an industrial revolution culture. And so where is my video? We're going to start with the gift giver. Maybe we'll go over that later. This was Dickens' Christmas, Forging the Modern Spirit, and then we'll get into America. Here we go.
The Wonder Oven Pro is an 8-in-1 non-toxic.
I hate it when they do these commercials.
By the early 19th century, the celebration of Christmas in England had fallen into a steep decline. The old, boisterous 12-day festival of the medieval period had been effectively dismantled by the religious fervor of the Puritan era, which condemned such celebrations as pagan and decadent.
Okay, so yeah, we're in this decline. They're in this pagan decline, and there's a revival. coming up, but I want to address this comment here. He said, my brother had Bad Santa on TV with his 2 kids thinking it was a children's movie. Yeah, that's not. And here's the thing. That's the thing. There's so many movies. There's so much stuff out there that says Santa ain't real, Santa this, Santa. I always told my son, Santa is real. And we keep the spirit of him alive. He comes from a real person. And, you know, I once my son figured out I was Santa, I was like, if you want, I said, hey, look, to get presents, you got to believe in Santa. I'm like, it was a relief that I didn't have to fake it anymore, because I would like literally have different wrapping paper, different writing, different cards. Like I'd have it all so he couldn't figure it out. And he figured it out, because as you grow, you get smart and your brain develops and you're like, hey, I think these adults are taking one up on us. But there's so much stuff out there that you really gotta know it. You gotta know it. Let's Dickens is super important for like a Christmas revival. It does start to happen in a commercial way, but he's addressing with a Christmas ghost story the issues that are in Victorian England, that are in this sort of industrial England. Huge social issues.
While the holiday was restored with the monarchy, it never fully regained its former cultural significance. It became a fragmented affair.
And that was because of Cromwell, by the way, and the staunch, like, what would you call them? Quakers type of people. They were like, we have to celebrate Christmas in this really rigid way where there's no feasting. Let's drive the paganism out of it. So it was still suffering and it wasn't revived. And Dickens changes that. And this era changes that and revives it.
A day for church services, and, for the wealthy, a grand dinner. For the working poor, it was often just another day of toil. The Industrial Revolution further eroded the holiday's traditions. A massive wave of humanity migrated from the countryside to the burgeoning, anonymous cities. This process shattered the old, tight-knit village communities where traditions like wassailing and the Yule log had thrived. In the new industrial landscape, people were disconnected from the agricultural cycles that had given the winter solstice its original meaning. Christmas was a holiday without a clear purpose or a coherent spirit. This period of social upheaval and spiritual malaise was the world that Charles Dickens knew. He was a writer acutely aware of the social ills of his time, particularly the plight of the poor and the dehumanizing effects of industrial capitalism. He saw the growing chasm between the wealthy and the destitute, and he believed that a change of heart was the only thing that could bridge it. In 1843, he found the perfect vehicle for his message.
Just going to pause right there. And so we're setting the scene here. And I mean, we could do another like it's almost like there is a pendulum, and this is a metaphor where things get so out of hand commercially. Like, I think we're in for some other revival with Christmas soon, or people are going to go more pagan and make it more meaningful. But the thing is if it's repressed upon you and everything's downtrodden, like here and with the Quakers, and it's about war, and we're in some kind of weird, crazy wartime now. If things are pressed upon you, it's not organic and cheer. So it's almost like we go through these phases for a reason. Like, you have to experience one to have the other. It's very bizarre, but that's my take on it. You can disagree with me, but we're going to get into this revival and what Charles Dickens comes up with to target this issue that's happening within England with Christmas. Literally, no one's really celebrating it. The rich might have some fancy feasts, but it's not like it was in pagan times or even medieval times.
In a feverish burst of creative energy, Dickens wrote a short novel that would do more to shape the modern conception of Christmas than any other single work in history. He completed A Christmas Carol in just 6 weeks. The book was an immediate and explosive success. It tapped into a deep-seated public yearning for a more meaningful, compassionate, and family-oriented way to mark the season. Dickens provided the world with a new scripture for the holiday. The story's power lies in its structure, as a tale of personal redemption. Ebenezer Scrooge.
It's really interesting that he does it as a tale of redemption, because Christianity really at its crux is about recognizing that we're all kind of messed up people who need to redeem and are asking for forgiveness. So it has that really strong element of Christianity in it, although it does bring pagan elements too. So it's really interesting how he constructs this as this redemption story and being visited by spirits to help him take him on that journey.
Scrooge is the perfect embodiment of the ills Dickens saw in his society. A man of wealth who is isolated, cold, and has forgotten his connection to humanity. His transformation is a powerful parable about the possibility of change. The three spirits who visit him are brilliant literary devices that force both Scrooge and the reader to confront the consequences of a life lived without compassion. A Christmas Carol did more than just tell a good story. It actively codified a new set of Christmas traditions. It established the template for the perfect Christmas celebration, one centered squarely on the family. The book's climax is the Cratchit family's feast, a scene of profound warmth and love in the face of poverty. Dickens effectively canonized the Christmas turkey as the centerpiece of this meal.
It wouldn't have been a turkey. It would have been a goose. Turkey's North American. I just felt the need to correct that. I'm pretty sure England wouldn't have. They would have had a roast or a goose, something like that. They wouldn't have had a turkey. That's not a native English bird. It's very North American. Gobble gobble. We're actually having a prime rib roast on Christmas Day. Very British. I tried to make Yorkies. I've made Yorkshire puddings and been successful, but our oven that we have right now, there's something up with it. And I tried to make them a couple of years ago, and they just didn't do it. So we won't be doing the Yorkies, but we'll be doing the prime rib roast. So I know that bugs me when they said turkey, because I know the Victorian English weren't having turkeys. I just know they weren't.
Turning it into an aspirational symbol for families across the English-speaking world. He also revitalized the practice of singing carols, moving it from the public sphere of wassailing to the intimate setting of the family parlor. The book is filled with scenes of music, dancing, and joyful games.
Right, he's like showing you that they are scenes where they're having a Christmas game, where they, and they are doing the sort of Christmas pudding, or they talk about the Christmas goose, different traditions that we hold today, where you're playing games, or it's a jolly time. It's a time for people to have a day off with pay, to give thanks to your workers, to give thanks to mankind, stuff like that.
It champions the idea of the white Christmas, linking the festive spirit to the beauty of a snow-covered landscape. More than anything, the book invented the very concept of the Christmas spirit, a specific mood of generosity, forgiveness, and nostalgic goodwill toward all people. The phrase Merry Christmas itself was popularized by the book. The story provided a complete emotional and philosophical blueprint for how...
So, Christians who talk about Merry Christmas, that is not a long held tradition. No one really said it before Dickens. Dickens popularized that phrase, that term, Merry Christmas, and I'm not telling you not to say it. It's a good phrase. It's now considered a Christian phrase, but it is not an old one. in terms of how long Christianity's been around, Merry Christmas is from Dickinson's tome, from his book. Just if you didn't know that. Let's finish out Dickens. I don't know I love A Christmas Carol. I usually watch the one with George C. Scott. There's the one with Alistair Sim. There's a whole bunch of them. I love the one with George C. Scott. He's just such one of my favorite actors. He's really intense. I know he's not British. I know he's not English, but he's still just such an intense actor. And all the other actors were English and British, and they were just such good character actors, and they were really powerful actors in their rendition that it's one of my favorites.
The holiday should be observed. It argued that Christmas was a special time, a brief magical period when the normal rules of commerce and social division should be suspended in favor of simple human kindness. It was a day to open one's heart, to give to charity, and to reconnect with loved ones.
What I like about The Christmas Carol is that I don't know if they had this sense before this. I know there was a heaven and hell sense, but I like about The Christmas Carol is that there's this idea that all the horrible things that you do in your life burdens you in the afterlife. As you see, Ebenezer Scrooge is this old kind of miser businessman who, takes advantage, is really greedy. His workers are impoverished and cold. He pays them Bob Cratchit hardly anything, even though he's his sickly son. He is essentially a terrible person. His business partner had died, Jacob Marley, and Jacob Marley's soul comes back to visit him. Oh my God, Paul from Newcastle. He just said something so amazing. You can make Yorkshire puddings in an air fryer. Oh my God, I may try this on Christmas Day. Thank you so much, Paul. That was a little bit of a blurb off the normal, but it's this idea that you get to weigh out, anyways, back to my line of thought, you get to weigh out your crimes in life. And you see Jacob Marley comes back to warn Scrooge, these are my chains that I carry. Yours are much bigger. This idea that things that you do here affect you over there. I don't know how well people had that as a concept, but this book, and then when you put it in a play or a visual movie, really hammers that if you betray mankind and you are not fair, and that goes for everyone, poor, rich, whatever, you get to weigh those things with you. And they bind you. You carry your sins forward. It's an interesting concept.
The impact of A Christmas Carol was immediate and profound. It was read aloud in homes and on public stages. Its message resonated deeply with a society grappling with rapid change. The book essentially refocused the holiday, moving its center of gravity from the public square to the private home, from the community to the nuclear family, and from adults to children.
My little miracle.
Okay, we will just turn the volume down on that one because we don't want to hear the commercial. But it is it's very interesting, the whole idea. And Dorothy said the documentary to watch on Charles Dickens is The Man Who Invented Christmas, because that one story really shaped a lot of Christmas. I won't be showing any clips from it because, of course, we'll get copyright. Of course we will. But we're going to skip forward here. It's a very slow-paced documentary. I wish it was a little more jollier as we get into this. But this whole documentary, and I will link it, you can listen to it. It's very slow. It makes you kind of sleepy. So I don't want to stay too much time in it because I don't want y'all to fall asleep, but you can check it out. But it talks about different things with Christmas, liminal spaces, 12 nights, the Yule log, bizarre rituals of fortune, the pooping log. we might have to listen to the pooping log. From wassailing to caroling, they talk about this, where you carol door to door or you're caroling inside the house, rituals of community blessings, securing luck for the new year. So there's all these sorts of different habits right around this time, right into the new year, that we do to bring things in. Christmas werewolves. Okay, we need to check out Christmas werewolves. I've never heard of Christmas werewolves. They literally got more German stuff. So let's see what Christmas werewolves are about.
Act as enforcers of a specific moral or social order. Another class of Yuletide creature exists entirely outside this system. These are the agents of pure chaos, supernatural beings who emerge during the lawless 12 nights of Christmas to cause anarchy and disruption. In the folklore of southeastern Europe, from Greece to Bulgaria, these beings are known as the Kalikansaroi. According to the legend, the Kalikansaroi are small, goblin-like creatures who dwell deep within the earth. For the entire year, their primary occupation is a singular malevolent task.
They're like goblin werewolves. So we're down to Greece here. You could, a little bit different than German. A little bit different.
They use a massive saw to cut down the world tree, the cosmic pillar that supports the heavens. They saw and they saw, and just as the tree is about to fall, the winter solstice arrives. The 12...
Okay, so that's really interesting that's their tale of how the solstice comes in. That's their tale of how the solstice comes in, is these little werewolf creatures come upon this tree and they saw it, and when the tree is about to fall, the falling of that tree by these little werewolf goblin figures means that the winter solstice has begun. And that is a very, I don't know how that works in my mind. I don't know how that works in your mind. I like the wheel. I like the Norse kind of wheel thing, or this idea of cyclics. But the goblin thing is, I can see why it's not very marketable. That the wheel would be a better icon of it. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
The 12-day period between Christmas and the Epiphany is a time of cosmic instability. The sun is reborn, and the normal rules of the universe are suspended. During this liminal window, the Kalikansaroi are able to emerge from the underworld and swarm across the surface. They abandon their work on the world tree and dedicate themselves entirely to tormenting humanity for 12 nights. Their appearance varies by region, but they are consistently grotesque. They are small, black, and hairy, often with a mix of animal and human features like horses' legs or boar's tusks. They are universally described as being chaotic, mischievous, and overwhelmingly stupid. Their goal is to invade human homes and turn them upside down.
Okay, they're not very good. You don't. They bring about the Christmas. They signify that by chopping down the tree, but then they're gonna create shit in our houses and mess us up. Yeah, I can see why this one didn't hit mainstream. I get it. I can't put it to words, but I get it. I get it. So we're gonna leave this one. I put the link to that whole video. It's a long one. It's at least 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours long. It goes through a whole bunch of different elements of Christmas, but I don't want to put us to sleep. It's just too slow moving. The information is astounding. MLE author says the world tree is also very Norse. I cannot say that word. Yggdrasil. I want to visit our Facebook page so we can go into some different elements of Christmas. I want to look at this Icelandic Yule cat. They said, you didn't get new clothes for winter. Now the Yule cat knows where you live. Now, apparently, the Icelandic Yule cat is a figure from Icelandic folklore, and the Yule cat is a massive supernatural cat that roams the countryside during the winter, especially around Yule. Those who did not receive new clothes were said to be at risk of being eaten by the cat. So, apparently, I'm assuming if you didn't get clothes, you weren't very good, and now you got to be scared. You could use that to psychologically torture a kid. This is the only problem I have with a lot of these things is now your kid, maybe you couldn't afford it. Now your kid's thinking this cat's going to come and eat it. Holy, things were rough in Iceland, man. The pre-industrial Iceland's survival depended on preparing wool before the winter arrived. Families worked together to shear sheep, spin yarn, and weave clothing before the cold setting. Receiving new clothes at Yule was proof that you had contributed. So again, it's about you working and not being lazy. And that was important in those days because manual human labor was important, right? It was important. Children and workers who completed their tasks were rewarded with new garments and mittens and tunics. Those who weren't, you were about to get chomped up by the Yule cat. So here we go. They're trying to sell some. This is the Nordic sisterhood. You didn't get new clothes. This evil kitty was worse than Pet Cemetery, and it was coming on your ass to eat you up. So you better start helping mama spin that wool, little Icelandic children, or you're going to get the Yule cat. That's what the Yule cat was about. There was another one. Was it food? Oh, no. It's actually in YouTube. I wanted to go over some food, and I want to go over some Slavic food because although half of me is English, Paul from Newcastle said sponsored by Walmart. That Yule kitty's come to get you, and you're going to be done. Although half is English Welsh, the other half is Slavic. So I'm wondering I'll look up some Slavic traditions, but there was a Slavic food, and the food had meaning. And the food that was going to be prepared, we can go into St. Nicholas after the food. I wanted to go in the Slavic food thing because it was fascinating how what they're adding to the food actually meant something. So let's go back into the chapters and eating like a Slav for Christmas, food history.
Did you know some people throw this popular Eastern European Christmas dish at the ceiling to predict the year's luck? In parts of Eastern Europe like Ukraine, Poland, Belarus, and Russia, the more the grain sick, the more prosperous the coming year is believed to be. And this dish called kucha is actually far older than Christmas itself. Long before Slavic peoples turned to Christianity, communities cooked grains with honey and poppy seeds for funerals and winter rituals, honoring ancestors and marking the cycle of death and rebirth. When Christianity spread, the dish was absorbed into Orthodox Christmas Eve traditions, becoming the first food eaten at the Holy Meal. And each ingredient of the dish carries a special meaning. Grain for life continuing, honey for blessing, and poppy seeds for abundance and the unseen world.
Did you know?
Okay, so that is it. Oh, you can remove your data from Google apparently. There you go. So that was it. That's basically a lot of the food that certain cultures make, even maybe in England, had a really religious meaning, but also certain foods like poppy seeds have certain meanings and blessings, and to continue the new year. Very few of us do that where we're like, hey, we're thankful for food. We just go through a drive-through, get our Starbucks, or God forbid you get McDonald's, but we just stuff it in and get to work, stuff it in, get to work, and I think we're so distanced from how to prepare food and where food comes from. And that's the disconnect where we just buy it and eat it. We're not sitting there all day preparing the bread, preparing the nuts and the dried fruit and making it up, and so that people have a fruitful new year to bring that back. We're in this mechanism that kind of seemingly overwhelms it or overrides it and goes past it. I think it might be an illusion. I think our time might be coming. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong. But that was that dish, eating like a slab for Christmas. And I'm sure it's much more in depth, and they have all sorts of different dishes that I'm unaware of. But that is it. And we're going to go back to the St. Nicholas and talk about him because, of course, like I said, he started out as a saint, rather dark figure. And then through, you get Charles Dickens and you get Clement C. Moore with his 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. You start having this character emerge that's like an elf, and then the elf becomes more of an adult like elf, a roly-poly Santa. And you can go look it up. There's a lot of documentaries on the evolution of Santa Claus, but we're going to do a quick one. And is that it? No, that's not it. We're going to do a little quick reel that gets us through there because we don't have a lot of time. We're coming up on the 2 hour. Oh. Well, crazy. Okay, this isn't the reel I thought it was. This is not the reel I thought it was. Naughty or nice, that time Jolly St. Nick punched a heretic in the mouth. All right, so Santa got busy sometimes and he didn't mess with people. So we're going to go see CBN Full Story News. Hopefully this shows up for you guys. We're actually, it opened in a different page, so we are going to have to go to that page. But apparently Santa gave someone the 5-knuckle sandwich. St. Claus, Kris Kringle, Pierre Noel, Sinterklaas, whatever name he's known by in your part of the world, he was a real person who was known as St. Nicholas. He resided in modern-day Turkey, where he served as a Christian bishop and eventually became known as a patron saint of sailors. Really nothing to do with our modern Christian guys, sorry. The true story of St. Nicholas of Myra, the man whose story became the basis of modern-day Santa Claus, reveals that his gift-giving is partly what got him into trouble. He was even imprisoned and tortured for his faith, for refusing to call the Roman Emperor Lord and standing firm by Jesus Christ. But that wasn't the last time he faced hardship for his action. One lesser-known story about Nicholas involves him defending the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ after a heretic stood up during the famous Council of Nicaea. Remember, the Council of Nicaea is going to be a lot of propaganda. Sorry, it is, because it's being run by Romans. It's not being run by original Christians, so just adding that in there. The incident occurred after he was freed by Constantine the Great, which allowed him to attend the Council of Nicaea. So Santa Claus was at the Council of Nicaea, bitches. 1700 years ago, in 325 AD, where the first Nicene Creed was established, outlining central beliefs of the Christian faith. Todd Nettleton, vice president at the Voice of Martyrs, previously wrote about the surprising incident. So here's what happened. After the reign of persecution ended, Nicholas would still face the fear testing of faith. This time within, and I don't know if this is truth or myth, but we'll go with it. A preacher named Arius began promoting a heresy that Jesus was not God in the flesh. Arius even went so far as to set his false teachings to music by putting words to popular drinking song. Arius might have been right. Who knows? But Nicholas wouldn't have any of this. Constantine, the new leader of the Roman Empire, called together church leaders at Nicaea to discuss Arius' teaching and other issues dividing the church. This was called the Council of Nicaea. And according to legend, Arius was making his presentation. He was dissing Jesus, saying this ain't true. He began singing one of his blasphemous songs. And Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, stood up and punched him right in the mouth. He was like, "How dare you?" Those in attendance were shocked. They were like, "Holy shit, Santa Claus just took out Arius." They went mad, and they understood why he was upset, but they like, "We get it. You're standing up for Christ's reputation." They did not believe that they could allow such behavior because Christ taught us to love our enemies and live a life of peace. So St. Nicholas let his anger get the best of him. And basically they said, "Hey, you can't serve as bishop. You just punched Arius in the mouth. And we just can't have that kind of behavior." Hardly anything has changed today, really, has it? This action did not stop Nicholas from serving the sick and needy. He went on to serve and keep doing what he was doing, even regardless of that heretic. Santa stood up, popped that sucker in the mouth and said, "Stop using our Lord's name in vain," and making fun of him. But, I don't know. I think Arius probably had some good points. But I did not know that Santa was at the Council of Nicaea, so you learn something new every day. We just learn this together, folks. Holy good Lord. That's the story of St. Nicholas going rogue and clocking a heretic in the mouth. And unfortunately, he got the boot. Everybody was like, Nick, yo, you can't be doing that. This shit's just whack. You cannot be bopping Arius in the mouth. It's kind of crazy. I had no idea. Okay, so I'm trying to think of, I'm sure I have some stuff. So Santa Claus, you guys can go look it up. Santa Claus has had a really interesting evolution, and he comes from this figure who they kicked out of the Council of Nicaea. Now he's in there, and of course, like I told you, you just have to read 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and you know where this commercial idea of Santa Claus comes from. Right there, Clement Seymour, the infamous 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Went all through the house. Not a creature was stirring. Not even a mouse, and that's good because you don't want mice in your house eating your shit and getting into things and pooping everywhere. That's not good. So that's the evolution. You can go watch tons of documentaries. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark. So any comments you guys have, pop them in. Any questions, anything that I missed. There's so much more to Christmas. I couldn't even possibly get through this in 2 hours. It is just Coca-Cola also, very good point. Coca-Cola used Santa Claus and gave him another image. One of the ideas of Santa in the red kind of, Coca-Cola. But originally, when they put in print Clement Seymour's book, I believe it was just probably originally just a written thing in like a newspaper. And then when they translated it to novels and books, and they started to add pictures. And originally he was drawn in a brown kind of suit. And because of the way they did the inking in the pictures, the fade, it looked red. So over time, it got interpreted as Santa wearing red, and Coca-Cola, took advantage of. They had that for their brand. Santa is a famous Coca-Cola figure. Speaking of commercial, I'm going to show you a few clips of commercial Christmas before we get out. We'll do that. I've got some pictures of my old Christmas. And then we cannot leave Sunday without tarot card draw. I don't have Christmas tarot card, but we'll go with it. You can look up Mari Lode. You can look up, oh goodness, I've got clips that I haven't even shown yet. Actually, we're going to have to show a couple more clips, one on Yule, and we'll close it out with that. And then we'll get into Christmas commercials and modern day, Christmas that is very much. Yeah, my mother still has my 'Twas the Night Before Christmas copy from 1979 when I was 2 years old. My God, that thing's old. Christmas is more pagan than Christian. What's this one? Okay, it's 1:39.
Almost everything we call Christmas wasn't Christian at all. The tree, the wreath, the lights, the date, the feast, nothing about Christmas is actually Christian. The church stole it all from pagans. December 25th really wasn't Jesus' birthday. The Bible never gives a date. Early Christians didn't.
This guy's like, he stole it. Okay, stole it. Infiltrated, absorbed, Yeah, okay. Nothing we can do about it.
Celebrate it at all. They celebrated his resurrection. But December 25th was already a major holiday, the Roman festival of Sol Invictus, honoring the unconquered sun. When Christianity became Rome's religion, they didn't cancel pagan celebrations. They rebranded them. And it wasn't just the date. Every Christmas tradition came from somewhere else. The Christmas tree?
Germans.
Germanic pagans brought.
We can thank Queen Victoria's husband for England having the Christmas tree. Thank you, Queen Victoria's husband.
Evergreens inside during winter solstice to honor nature gods. The wreath on your door? Druids hung evergreen circles as protection spells to ward off evil spirits. The round shape symbolized the sun and eternal life. Garland draped on homes? Ancient Romans decorated with it during Saturnalia. The lights and candles? Yule traditions celebrating the return of the sun. Gift-giving and feasting? Saturnalia, where Romans exchanged presents and threw massive parties. Feasts and gifts weren't Christian either. They were Saturnalia customs that the early church kept to help converts transition from paganism to Christianity. By the 4th century, the church simply baptized the old traditions. The birth of the sun replaced the birth of the sun.
That's interesting. So it's a really good trick. You just baptize to like, okay, so this was all these pagans, but we'll baptize it. Now it's Christian. That's interesting. I don't know if he literally means baptize it, but that's interesting.
And so what began as a festival of light became a celebration of Christ, not by prophecy, but by adaptation. Follow for more history.
Okay, so that's a good one. There's also another one before we get into it. Commercial. I don't know. There's some really good commercials out there from my childhood that when I see them, I'm like, whoa, that is amazing. So this is Yule. It's getting into the Norse and Germanics. We're kind of traveling back to what we already covered, but she's going to talk a little bit about Yule for a minute and a half, and then we're going to get back up to modern times and talk about how we feel about Christmas today and what we're all doing. And I'll show you some pictures of me when I was a little Christmas baby.
Deeper, and far more magical than Christmas. Yule is the ancient midwinter festival. It was celebrated long before Christmas ever existed. It's rooted in old Norse and Germanic traditions. And Yule was this time when people gathered around fire to honor the winter solstice, which is the longest night of the year, and also to celebrate the return of the sun. When the world went dark, our ancestors created their own light with evergreens, candles, feasting, and rituals meant to protect, nourish, and restore. Evergreens symbolized resilience. Fires symbolized hope. And the season itself symbolized that even in the coldest nights, life is rebuilding itself. If you've been feeling exhausted, emotional, or disconnected this month, your body might be craving the old ways, the rituals that helped humans move through dark with meaning instead of numbness. Yule isn't about rushing. It's about remembering your connection to nature, to your ancestors, to the land beneath your feet, and to that quiet inner flame that refuses to go out, even when life has burned everything else down. Over the next week, I'm going to share some rituals, traditions, and magic behind Yule, including the 12 wishes and the 12 magical nights. So if you've been craving a more meaningful winter, welcome home.
Okay, I'm going to link her page for those of you. She is at Angela Omer. If you're interested in what she's going to say, because she's posting more content on the 12 nights. So I'll link that there in the live chat. That is Angela Omer on TikTok. So she does a lot of stuff about Yule and the celebration, probably paganism. So you can check that out. Really good reminder about the connection to the world. And I think a lot of people they're either bent down into this modern world or they're feeling, and I think that's where the mental health issues are coming from, because people are not doing things within the real world and in nature anymore. They're just disconnected, and it's causing a lot of strife. And I think if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, you can clearly see, I've done a show on this before, where the Industrial Revolution really bring about a massive rise in schizophrenia. So you can see mental health going bad as technology rises, no matter what, including social media. So that was that. We are going to look at some commercials. We're going to come back to the modern times. I have a lot of commercials that I love. I don't know. I never found a Cabbage Patch. I have to be careful because I can't show stuff with, a logo or too much music. Oh, you can get in trouble. But we got a couple of commercials here to kind of give you a drive back to the 80s, maybe the 70s. And you can see where we feel Christmas was a little more simpler, but you can still see the commercialism there. So let's have a look at this one here.
There's 12 terrific glasses for the 12 days of Christmas. And every time you buy a medium-sized Pepsi for only 59 cents, you get to keep the glass it comes in. And here's the nicest part of the whole offer. There are only 2 glasses every week, so you have to keep coming back to get the whole set. And you know why that's so nice? Because the place you have to keep coming back to is Taco Bell.
Taco Bell Christmas. You can get, you don't get glasses like that anymore. I'm telling you, you don't get those glasses like that. It's all cheap plastic crap. The quality has gone down even since the 80s. Those were like you could have filled those up with water and played 12 Days of Christmas on those. They were doing it right for you there. You could have become a band, gotten those tacos, gotten the 12 glasses, started a glass banging musical band, and yeah. No, this one is good. This is a little more commercial. We got another one here. I think Sammy Davis Jr. is in this one. This is Carolyn. You can still see the traditions right now in this commercial. Wassailing, door-to-door caroling, right here in Commercial Land, USA.
Have your fun at home and office. La 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 la. Speed relief to head and stomach. Alka-Seltzer, fast, fast, fast.
When you overdo the holiday pleasures, Alka-Seltzer is a Yuletide treasure.
Oh, what a relief it is. La 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 la.
So for me, you know what that says? I don't know if that's Sammy Davis Jr. It looked like him. You tell me what you think. That tells me, okay, that's when they were saying, okay, that should have been the red flag that the diet of the American diet was going bad because we needed Alka-Seltzer because we were having leaky gut syndrome and a whole bunch of stuff. There was a red flag right there in the 80s in that Christmas commercial where we were needing Alka-Seltzer because we're starting to eat commercialized food that wasn't good for us. That has just gotten worse since then. Red flag. The red flag of commercialism. One more commercial. This is more of a local business commercial. They got in on it. And today, a lot of this stuff would probably be at Dollar Tree, but let's check it out.
Ben Franklin has everything in Christmas trimmings. Come see their complete selection of home and tree decorations. Beautiful tree lights, tree trimming, window decorations, and much, much more. It's true, Ben Franklin has the biggest and best selection in town. Christmas sweets are a must. They feature kitchen-fresh, delicious Christmas candies at reasonable prices. And you'll get helpful, friendly service at Ben Franklin in Williston and Crosby. The Williston store will be open every night till Christmas, and the Crosby store will be open evenings starting December 4th.
All right. There you go. Modern capitalism, it's just bad. Paul says, eating from Taco Bell, you will be playing 12 Days of Christmas on the toilet. We had this Indian place. What did we call it? It was called Spice Hut. Me and my son called it Spice Butt. I'd be like, should we go to Spice Butt? I don't know. Pakora? I don't know. Should we do it? Yeah, don't do Taco Bell. Look, things are expensive. Things are getting crazy. We bought a 4-pound prime rib roast from the butcher, which probably would have been like $40 to $50 before, and it was like $84 or $86. Like, just crazy increases in price. It's like people can't afford it. There are a lot of people who need charity, who need help, and hopefully these mega churches are actually doing something about it instead of vapid, crazy concerts that cost an outrageous amount is not. They're just crazy. I understand that people appreciate that it's good entertainment, that it's easy to see, but I think people are feeling the spiritual loss and people are feeling the hardships of administrations of crazy and war and everything. Jonaside said, we had a Ben Franklin in my town and I miss that store. I'm Canadian, so we never had that. We had, okay, so in Canada, we had this. I'm actually going to try to find it. In Canada, we have this place called Canadian Tire, and we had Canadian Tire commercials with Ebenezer Scrooge that I remember from my childhood. I'm actually going to see if I can find this, and I'll show you. Canadian Tire is the bomb. I love that store. Tire Christmas commercials. Oh yeah, they got some. Okay, I'll share my screen and we'll go into it. We want to go for the 80s. We don't want to do the modern ones. I want to go for when I was a kid, and then I'll show you. It's a 32-second commercial. But yeah, we had this place called Canadian Tire, and we would always go on Boxing Day. We have a thing called Boxing Day in Canada on the 26th. I don't know if you have it here, where they're trying to get rid of all the stuff from Christmas for like discounts. So we would go to Canadian Tire and try to get really cheap Christmas decorations for the next year, like for like 70-80% off. It was like a thing. And so I don't know if you have something similar in America. I've never even shopped. I know Black Friday in America, and I won't. I refuse to shop because I don't want to get trampled. I know people. It's toned down in America. I'll give you that, but I still don't want to get trampled to death because people want a big screen TV. So this is Retro Ontario, a Canadian Tire commercial.
Canadian Tire has some great gift ideas for anyone who hates to clean pots and pans.
Yes, get someone to invite you out to eat.
No, get this easy-to-clean Corningware cookware. This Spice of Life pattern is just $35.95 this week. French white is $32.95, and corn flour just $22.95.
Why, I can afford a set for all my friends. Good thing I don't have it.
Canadian Tire lets you give like
Santa,
and
save like Scrooge. That was their motto around Christmas time. It lets you give like Santa and save like Scrooge. Wow, look at them trying to combine capitalism with giving and being nice. Oh my God. Do we have another one? 1982, 1983. Let's see.
Bah, cheer up. You might get a new coffee maker for Christmas.
Oh, don't spend that much on me.
I never know. A Proctor Silex with brew selector is just $41.95 this week at Canadian Tire, and a Proctor Silex Deluxe Toaster Oven Broiler is just $64.95.
That's too expensive.
Someone might get that for me.
If you're a good boy.
Out of the question.
Canadian Tire lets you give like Santa.
So it was just filled with those kind of commercials for Canadian Tire. That was like my childhood. And to finish this off, got a few pictures of Christmas past. Here's a good one. Baby Melissa. I don't know what to do. People are just shoving this rat present at me. What do I know what to do? But one of my presents was this is the 70s, spinning top. Classic Christmas gift for children. I don't remember this present at all, so I don't know what ever happened. I don't ever recall it. So now we're gonna go to Santa. You gotta go sit on Santa's lap. I think I'm like around 2 or 3 here. Santa's lap. Then we got one of me a little bit older, like 4 or 5. Mickey Mouse shirt, got my candy cane. Total classic, modern Christmas. Let's see if I've got... that's me and my mother at Christmas time. She's feeding her iguana, and I'm all dressed for a Christmas concert. And my light just went out. See, if I talk for too long, my lighting goes out. But that was perfect timing when I had a picture over my face. So there's that one. And that same year, I was a big She-Ra and He-Man fan. Massive. This would be like 86. Roughly 85, 86. I'm right here with my She-Ra. I've got the dark hair on. That's my cousin. And you see the tinsel? Look at that tinsel tree. That was a relative's house. But I was like heavy duty into She-Ra. And I got She-Ra and the castle and all that stuff. And now a little bit more modern, 2 modern pictures. This is one I don't generally show pictures of my son, but I have one of me and my son sitting with Santa. There we are. Me as the mother with my boy. who is now 6'7", believe it or not, and an adult. And then there's one from 2019 of me. Merry Christmas, way longer hair. I'm actually going to grow my hair out. I'm way younger here there though. So I'll grow my hair out. And that's some kind of Christmas. I don't know what your Christmases are, but I remember the 80s like any probably American would, where in Canada, Boxing Day was a huge day. You go out shopping and you get stuff for really cheap. You get the stuff that's left over. And my mom says, give like Santa, save like Scrooge. That was the motto of Canadian Tire. But that is my show. And we just went on an evolution from something spiritual to something really commercial. And how I don't know, part of that commercialism did revive Christmas. Dickens revived Christmas. And I just want to say to you guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful Yule, and you're having a great day, and whatever you choose to celebrate, however you choose to celebrate this season. Thank you, Kirby. Cute baby. Yeah. I'm sure I got other toys, but I only had a picture. We didn't have a lot of pictures in those days because it was like a process. Like, people, did you have a camera in the 70s? And if you did, then you developed the film. Maybe you had a Polaroid. Maybe you had a Polaroid. Polaroid is like magical because the pictures would pop out, but picture taking, you take all these pictures and you just hope and pray when you develop them at the photo booth, they turn out. Once digital came in, you could take pictures, edit them right there, delete them, take as many as you wanted. This is a totally different show back in those days. So there's not, like, I have tons of pictures of my son, not so many pictures of myself. There's some there. There's some, but it just wasn't as rampant in those days. Just that's how it was. So you guys, I really thank you. I'll pop up my little graphic again to say Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, Happy Winter Solstice, whatever it is you guys are celebrating from me. We might do a Christmas Eve. I'll see how it goes, but we'll definitely be back in the New Year's with a whole bunch of new guests. I'm rebranding, redoing a more simpler site. I'm kind of paring everything down to what I want to do. We'll be doing the Steal the Spiritual Sundays, the Wednesdays, what they'll call it, and the Thursdays with vampire folklore and other stuff like that. And so be tuned into the new year. I hope you guys all, if I don't see you before the New Year's, please have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful Yule, and blessed New Year, and all the best in 2026. I won't get into the politics that I think is going to come out in 2026, but I will be praying that all my audience as well. And I want to see you guys again. And remember, the website is melissadonharris.com. You're going to see it change a little bit, a lot of it over the next couple of weeks. And you can subscribe on the YouTube channel. We are over at Substack at Order of Velvet Bite. We are over at Patreon. I will be doing a Substack and Patreon episode probably Tuesday, quickly for paid subscribers. We're over at Patreon, Order of Velvet Bite. We are streaming also on Twitch and Kick and YouTube. Not on Rumble anymore. It's too political of a platform. And I thank you guys for supporting my show and helping me grow. It means a lot to me. So happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'm going to go Christmas shopping. So blessed be everyone. And I will see you soon.